On metal cutting and forming. So in the previous three modules we were discussing about the metal cutting process. Now we will be dealing about the metal forming, and the next coming two modules are based upon the metal forming process only. So what actually is metal forming? So metal forming is a process in which we provide plastic deformation to a metal to change its dimension or properties or its surface conditions. So this metal forming process can be categorized broadly into two categories. One is your bulk deformation process. Second one is your sheet metal working process. In bulk deformation process, this deformation is provided in a bulk. A large amount of deformations are provided. While in sheet metal working process, we have the workpiece which is having very small thickness, and the deformation is provided to that small thickness of a material. So this bulk deformation process is having four further subcategories. Broadly, these four subcategories, there are more subcategories, but broadly there are these four subcategories. One is your rolling process, second one is the forging, third one is the extrusion process, and fourth one is the wire drawing process or bar drawing process. So these all processes will be discussed in this current module. While the sheet metal working process have two further subcategories. One is the bending process, second one is the drawing process, and these will be discussed in the module 5. So there is one more categorization of metal working or metal forming, which is based upon the temperature in which you are doing your operation, or based upon the working temperature, and this categorization is between hot working and cold working process. So what actually is hot working process? The hot working process is a process which is done at temperatures which are higher than the recrystallization temperature, but they are lower than the melting point. That means the working temperature will be between the recrystallization temperature and the melting point of the material. Okay. Secondly, the recrystallization keeps the material away from strain hardening in the hot working process. That means if you are providing strain to the material, its grains will not get deformed. It will not get deformed grains. That means there will be no residual stresses because of recrystallization, and hence there will be no residual stresses or strain hardening in the material due to this hot working process. Thirdly, the lower limit of the working temperature of the material is about 60% of its melting point. That means you cannot in any condition go lower than the 60% of the melting point temperature. Fourthly, the upper limit of the working temperature is dependent upon the composition of the material and the impurities or alloys that are present in the material. For example, if I am doing the hot working of a steel, what is the upper working temperature? It will be decided by what kind of impurities are present in that steel, or what kind of alloying material is present in that steel. Then the upper limit is also decided by factors like excessive oxidation or grain growth or phase transformation of the material. What this actually is, let's go into a little bit of details about this. All of you know that temperature plays a catalyst for providing oxidation in a metal. So for example, if I have a piece of iron placed at a room temperature, it will not get rusted so fastly. But if I heat this material, this piece of iron, I increase the temperature of this, the oxidation will be very fast. Okay, so we have to see that our upper limit of temperature is such that it does not create excessive oxidation, because the oxidation is a factor of many deformities in the material. We need to avoid that. Secondly, we also know from our triple T diagram in the material science that the grain growth or the rate of grain growth is a very important factor in deciding the properties of the material. So we need to check that, we need to control that grain growth, hence we need to decide the upper limit temperature. Thirdly, we also know from the iron carbon diagram that the phase transformation is also dependent upon the temperature. So after a certain temperature limit, the phase of a material gets transformed. So this phase transformation also needs to be checked or also needs to be controlled. So due to all these three factors, we also need to control the upper limit of the hot working process. Lastly, the hot working process generally improves certain material properties like ductility, toughness, its resistance to shock, percentage elongation, and etc. So let's see the advantages of this hot working process. So as we saw in the previous slide, in hot working process there are no residual stresses. The grain structure is also very refined in this. Impurities are disintegrated and distributed throughout the material in this. Porosity of the material is also minimized, and the larger deformations can be accomplished very rapidly. Why? Because at higher temperatures metal becomes more ductile, and the more ductile materials can be deformed very easily by providing a smaller amount of stress to them. Let's see the disadvantages of this. So one disadvantage of this is, as the process is occurring at very high temperature, then there is a possibility of oxidation. Secondly, the carbon loss on the surface occurs, and hence the surface loses strength. All of you know that carbon generally improves the strength in a lot of material, and if the material surface is losing carbon, its strength will get loosened. Thirdly, the weak surfaces can be a cause of fatigue cracking. Fatigue is generally occurred by continuous repetitive load. So if the material surface has become weak now, it's has lost its strength, so a fatigue loading will cause cracking in the surface, and this is also a disadvantage. Fourthly, there are a very high tooling cost associated with it. Why a high tooling cost? Because we need to heat the material, and heating a material requires a furnace and a huge setup for all this, and this is a very costly operation. Now coming to cold working process. So cold working process is a process in which we work material below the recrystallization temperature. This is first. So what is the working temperature? It is the room temperature. So we do operations on the room temperature. Thirdly, the process distorts the grain structure. How it distorts the grain structure? For example, I am providing a compressive load to a material. The grains will be compressed. And if I am providing a tensile load to the materials, grain will be elongated. Okay, on contrary to your hot working processes in which the working temperature was above the recrystallization temperature, so these compressed grains or elongated grains will get again recrystallized into their original form, but in this they do not, they stay in that state, so hence the grain structure gets distorted. Fourthly, it in the cold working processes high pressure is required. Why high pressure is required? As all of us saw that in hot working process material was becoming ductile, but in cold working process metal does not become much ductile, it remains in its own state, and hence as compared to your hot working processes more pressure is required. Fourthly, or fifth point is that only ductile material can be cold rolled, because brittle materials will crack when you are doing cold working on them. Lastly, in this process, residual stresses are generated. What residual stresses are? That if you are providing stress to a material, some of these stresses will get accumulated inside the material, and they will stay there in the form of residual stresses. And sometimes these residual stresses are very dangerous for a material. So what are the advantages of this code working process? Firstly, you will get a better dimensional accuracy in this as compared to the hot working process. Secondly, the surface finish is better in this because there is no oxidation of the material involved. Thirdly, the strength and hardness of the material increases in this. And fourthly, it is an ideal method to increase the hardness of those materials which do not respond to heat treatment. So what actually happens, let's say I need to increase the hardness of a material, of an iron piece, let's say of a steel. I'll heat this steel and will quench this, and this quenching will increase the hardness. Now let's say if there is a material which does not even respond to this heat treatment, I am heating that material and I am quenching this, and its hardness is not increasing. Now how to increase the hardness of that material? So one way of increasing the hardness of that material can be by using a cold working process. And the disadvantages associated with the cold working process is that firstly the ductility of the material gets decreased. Secondly, only ductile materials can be worked by this. So brittle materials will crack when you are doing the cold working process. Thirdly, overworking results in brittleness. So as we said earlier that the ductility gets decreased. So hence ductility is decreasing. So the brittleness of the material will increase. Lastly, to remove the residual stresses, heat treatment is required. So let's say I am doing cold working on a material. So what happened that the residual stresses gets accumulated inside the material. So I need to remove those residual stresses. So what to do? So to remove those residual stresses, we need to do heat treatment of the material, and by heat treatment those stresses will get removed. So but we increased one more step in the manufacturing process, which is heat treatment. Hence it comes in the disadvantages of this. So by this I'll finish this video, and we'll